Out with the old.
And in with the new Wilson Ultra version 5. So our Ultra review in full, Josh, got us loads of subscribers really quickly. But
Ryan's going to say this is too long.
Subscribe, why don't you?
Thanks. Now, when we do our versuses, new versus old, we very often just say buy the new one. However, for maybe the first time ever, there are certain elements that I do prefer in the old one. So depending on your play style, whether you want to upgrade or move across to the new Ultra is going to be very specific, so stay tuned.
Yes, I couldn't agree more, Josh. In terms of the specs of the racket, lots of things very similar. 300 gram static weight, 16 by 19 pattern, balance point is still 320.
Fresh from Nerd Corner, aren't you?
Yep.
So obviously the update is in Wilson's new SI 3D, which is about the flexibility of the frame to try and make the new version 5 more explosive and deliver more power, but within the confines of the court.
Yes.
They've increased the flexibility both vertically and horizontally by a couple of points on their system. However, the torsional stability, so the twist stability on impact, has remained the same. And this makes perfect sense because when we get a little bit later into why there's certain shots and certain opportunities where you may prefer the previous generation, this is part of it, and it makes sense based on the increased in flexibility.
Yes, so those tracking the new SI 3D numbers.
The new version 5 Ultra, its 3 numbers are, Joseph, you can read it off the throat,
644.
whereas the previous generation version 4 was 434. So
Not on the throat, so you've committed that to memory, Josh.
I am a professional, what can I say? Obviously, the final number 4 is that torsional stability. That has stayed the same. We have a big reduction in vertical stability and a smaller reduction in horizontal.
So what they're looking for, like you say, that explosive power, that pop, right? You're looking for a bit more.
Yeah, they're talking about the energy that's stored within the frame and being able to deliver that into the ball. That is what we're looking for, and that is the definition for Wilson of explosive power.
You may have noticed that they look different.
Yes, quite a big update in the cosmetic. When this Ultra first came out, everyone thought it was great. It was that sort of, well, as you can see, that sort of dark blue, purpley colour shifting, really smart.
It was the first one in the Wilson range to do that thing,
but
wasn't
obviously, you could argue maybe it has dated a little bit.
Yeah, a very nice fresh update. This is the matte
E-Zone 100.
This is the matte finish which you get in the 100 and the 100L and the 100UL. In the Pro, which is a different frame altogether, is a gloss finish, which is also very, very nice. I think it's a real upgrade in the cosmetic.
So as well as the cosmetic changes and the change in the flexibility of the frame, what that's supposed to do, according to Wilson, from the old to the new, I should say, is more shape on your shots, so you can access a different range of shots with more spin, more free power, and enhanced pocketing. So as that frame flexes, ball stays in contact with the strings for longer, more dwell time, more pocket, more control. We have tested these rackets against each other. As you can tell, we already have formed some opinions, but don't worry, for those eagle-eyed amongst you, these are not the two that we tested, because they clearly have different strings.
Yes, we've restrung. This is going to be our demo racket for customers to demo. So this has been restrung with 4G soft, but it was the ocean blue alu power in both when we tested. So don't worry, don't start typing your comments just yet.
We are nothing but scientific.
So let's go and watch us play, shall we? All right, as we said, we have not just come off court.
We came off court several days ago.
But we have play tested both these rackets. The old version 4 up against the new version 5 Ultra.
Now the Ultra family as a range, I would say, has been quite an up and down family. When we first opened the shop 8 years ago, it was very popular, and then a new one came out, wasn't so popular, and those 5 versions have really gone up and down. For this version 4, you could argue was maybe a downer. And therefore the 5 naturally should be an upper.
And was it, Josh? Your first thoughts?
Well, my first thoughts when I first picked it up, I was a little concerned that I preferred it to my Pure Drive. There was an element of, oh no. But don't worry, that didn't continue. It's very easy to pick up and use. It's very easy to pick up and use with multiple styles. When we test, we try and play with long swings, short swings, more spin, flatter, slice, all sorts of different styles, different paces to see where the rackets perform best. And it was easy to access that, so the increase in range of shots has certainly come through.
Yeah, and I think that between you, myself, Ben, and you, we have different styles, and Ben plays a one-handed backhand, is much sort of flickier, wristier, but we were all able to pick up the racket and be able to access some of its qualities really quickly, which is cool.
So the kind of main overriding thought between these two actually was sort of born out of what I'd read about the new racket, where Wilson specified that you can add power to both fast and slow balls. And I hadn't really considered that much, but because I kind of pre-read that when I was playing, I was really thinking like, yeah, that is a very different type of adding power to the balls, whether you're adding it or whether you're maintaining the pace that's already there. And when we then tested the two against each other, it became very apparent that the previous generation, version 4, was probably more stable when the ball was already fast, but when you had to add pace to the ball, became a little wild and very difficult to control. And therefore, on the flip side, the version 5, not quite as stable and stiff when the ball came fast, but when you were trying to add pace to the ball, serving, putting balls away that was sort of sat up, then it was a much superior racket.
Yes, so my first thoughts are really that if you are used to something like an E-zone or a pure drive, it might be that you find the old version more akin to that in terms of absorbing pace and creating pace sort of on the counter, whereas the new one, slower balls, able to whip it round a little bit more and generate your own pace, then this is going to be the one. Talking of power, Joshua.
Yeah, this makes this very difficult as a category, because as we said, there is these two different types in terms of maintaining power and pure power. Then the version 4 is more powerful. However, when you're trying to add energy into the ball fully yourself, then the new one takes over. So it's that easy access to power probably sits here in the V4, but the true power in a sense of the word probably sits in the V5. So I would give it a fair split, but not because it's the same, they're different.
Yes, completely agree. Couldn't add anything further.
Wow, that's excellent.
Exactly. In terms of spin, I would say much of a muchness. I think
this is where I think the change is.
Really?
I think this is the big change because of this, because it's more flexible horizontally.
So I think the change comes in a later category in terms of the flexibility.
But I could generally generate more shape and more spin with version 5 than version 4.
See, I would probably disagree, but that's probably speaks to the way in which we played, the things we're looking for, the way in which we access spin.
And maybe speaks to Joe being incorrect. Maybe.
See what you think. I think that both generate spin. I actually think that, strangely enough, the Pro out of any of the range creates the most amount of spin in that more open pattern.
It reduces that string pattern, yeah. But obviously these are both 1619, so they're generally open string patterns. You can generate spin with them because of that, and they're 100s. But between the two, if you had to say which one generates more spin, then it would be the version 5.
So I'm going to mix the categories around a bit, and we're going to go comfort and feel, because that's the bit that I wanted to jump in and say that's where I think the big difference is. That flex and that pocketing, I feel like gives a greater feel than that previous version. This feels slightly more sort of short, stabby, battering around, whereas this seems to be a little bit more versatile, a little bit more comfortable, a little bit definitely more pocketing, so able to sort of just feel it a little bit more, I think, in the new version 5.
It's more of an all-round racket. However, if you like that stiff, stable, tighter, punchier feel, then you may prefer the feeling of the version 4. However, the modern game generally is going away from that, and people, again, with sort of looser, flickier, faster swings, where you're really accelerating the ball on every contact, and version 5 certainly fits more into that category than the shorter, punchier version 4.
Yep. And in terms of control, which is going to be our last category, this one.
Yeah, increased flex, increased ball pocketing, increased spin.
Apparently.
And especially when adding power to the ball, that's where that control really helps you. And although it's slightly gimmicky, Wilson's, the baseline is your only limit, 78 feet. That's where you need the free power. Inside that limit, there's no point having more that you cannot keep within that limit. It does really do that when you're trying to strike fear into your opponent.
Yes, for a power frame, this is really, really good on control, and it is an upgrade on the old one.
So there you have it. Of course, the biggest improvement is the cosmetic. In terms of playability, it's certainly also a step up if you are a Version 4 user and you find it hard to control, especially when adding pace to the ball. It's worth trying version 5. If you've managed to tame this, maybe the upgrade, not necessary. Who knows? But I think there'll be some Wilson players who like Wilson style frames, maybe who've used a blade and want a bit more punch. They're going to really love this new Ultra. I think that's going to be who it really thinks, because a lot of the Wilson rackets play in a similar way. You can feel that it's a Wilson frame. I think that the Ultra has certainly added something to it, to that power category within the Wilson family.
Yes. As always, don't forget to like, follow, share and subscribe so you never miss a thing from PH Tennis.